Pack your bags, Paul, and don't let the door hit you where the Lord split you. According to the Daily Beast, a number of unnamed GOP lawmakers want him gone so his successor can take over before the midterms. Axios reporting one senior Republican House member thinks he's going to be gone by the summer. There's apparently worry among donors that if he stays, that could further divide the party. But just this morning, Paul stuck his finger in everybody's eye, says he has no plans to step down now. Paul?
There is nobody who's come close to being able to raise the kinds of funds I have and still can raise for this majority. So it's obviously in our interest to keeping our majority that every player is on the field fighting for this majority, raising for this majority, and it makes no sense to take the biggest fundraiser off the field.
You know who else has raised a bunch of money? Nancy Pelosi. She's also a compromised former Speaker of the House. So is it better for Republicans for Ryan to finish out his term, or does he need to hit the road as soon as possible? Let me ask someone who does have skin in the game. He is on that field, Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. Welcome back to the show, Congressman.
Thank you, Kennedy.
So should he stay or should he go now?
Speaker Ryan should do whatever his heart leads him to do.
Oh, come on. You don't believe that.
I absolutely believe that.
No,
Here's the problem. If we take Paul Ryan off the field right now, instead of being able to finish strong in the 115th Congress, we will shatter into a bunch of factions fighting against each other for power. We got enough of that in Washington already. Paul Ryan can be a caretaker of the speakership. We can have a leadership election. We can go into the midterm strong. And I don't think that pushing him out early, if he doesn't want to go, is in any way advantageous.
Congressman, with all due respect, and I have a lot of respect for you and many of the positions
Likewise.
that you hold. Thank you very much. I will say this. If Paul Ryan has done such a bang-up job, his caucus shouldn't be fractured. You know what you should do? You should all get together and say, this is the person that we stand behind. You have said that you're excited for fresh blood. Well, someone in the upper echelon of your party in that chamber is ready to bleed. So why don't you get behind that person now so you can coalesce and so you can craft an agenda and sell it to the American people?
I don't believe that the House lacks unity. I think it's the Senate that's been the problem. We've passed funding for the wall. We've passed a removal of sanctuary cities. We've passed a repeal of Obamacare. The Senate can't do anything. And so I don't think that it's Paul Ryan's fault that we've had a less than productive 115th Congress. I think it's Mitch McConnell's fault.
But he's such a used up, dirty old Band-Aid that the second you rip him off, the almost corpse is going to fall into a million pieces?
Well, to torture your metaphor, if you take that Band-Aid off too soon, you can get an infection. And so I don't want that to occur. Look, if Paul Ryan can maintain some stability, maintain some order while we advance the president's agenda for the rest of the 115th Congress, I think that's all the better. Look, this is a guy who didn't want this job in the first place, Kennedy. He didn't want to do it. He took it because there was no one else that was going to be able to get to 218 votes.
Yes, and he completely abandoned his principles and helped push through a $1.3 trillion bloated, disgusting, offensive, lecherous spending bill.
I agree. I didn't vote for it, and I don't agree with every decision the Speaker has made, but any of the people who the Republicans you're citing would back to step into the speakership also voted for that very bill.
I haven't cited anyone, though.
No, but you've cited members of the House who want to replace Ryan. Those members that want to replace Ryan now voted for the bill. The people that they want to step in to be Speaker next voted for the bill.
You have some very, very powerful allies, and quite a few of them, many of them didn't vote for the bill. So why don't you get together as a coalition and find someone who is actually principled, who is actually going to stand up for limited government and fiscal conservatism and run the whole thing?
Well, it is not the easiest thing in the world to find a principled conservative in Washington. Sometimes this is the last place we look. But the majority of Republicans voted for that treacherous bill. And so even within our own conference, the fiscal conservatives are outnumbered. And so we're going to have to work with people who aren't as fiscally conservative as we are, aren't as libertarian leaning as we are. And we're going to have to find someone who can unify the institution. Paul Ryan has done that.
No,
look,
he hasn't.
Kennedy, look at what we've got done in the House. If the Senate would take up and pass every bill we've passed.
Look at what you haven't gotten done in the House.
Hey, listen, compare that to the Senate. In the House, we have been so much more productive on immigration, on border security, on health care, even on taxes. We've gotten more done than the Senate has. Everything that we do gets watered down over there because the Senate doesn't want to take tough votes. That is not Paul Ryan's fault. We've been advancing the president's agenda in the House. It's probably one of the reasons why the president worked well with the Speaker.
Are you retiring?
No, not yet, Kennedy.
Well, I know a lot of people are heading for the exits, including one of your compatriots, Dennis Ross.
Yeah, Dennis has been a great conservative, and we're really going to miss him in the Florida delegation. An absolute patriot. But look, a lot of people are leaving Washington because this is a place where we're not getting enough done. And we've got to have fighters willing to stay here and actually ensure that we don't engage in the greatest wave of generational theft in all of human history. And that's going to require Republicans acting like Republicans again.
All right. So if the president, in fact, fires Bob Mueller, what will Republicans do? How will they line up?
Well, I think you should fire Rod Rosenstein, and I think it's pretty tragic that in the United States Senate, an institution that couldn't come together to pass a repeal of Obamacare, that couldn't come together to fund the border wall, all of a sudden is unifying around the protection of Bob Mueller, of all things. And it certainly shows that the president's got some deep and dangerous waters over in the United States Senate.
Okay, so
and hopefully we can help him in the House.
Senate Republicans are protecting Mueller. Does that mean that House Republicans are protecting the president?
I hope so. I know that my colleagues on the Judiciary Committee have pointed out the ridiculous hypocrisy in the Mueller investigation where people have conflicts of interest, where Rod Rosenstein, who oversees Mueller, thinks he can oversee a conflict of interest investigation when he wrote the very memo to fire Comey.
I know. The whole thing is so bizarre and frankly so un-American. Very last question. We're running out of time. John Boehner, who was anti-marijuana just 7 years ago, has now come out pro-cannabis. What are your feelings on that?
Welcome aboard, Speaker Boehner, but I hope that people don't have to leave Congress and get a private sector job offer before they wake up to the realities of cannabis reform and its utility.
Absolutely right. And I hope that he can influence people who are in power right now to reschedule the drug so we can see benefits for veterans and others, as you and I have talked about. Congressman Gaetz, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kennedy.
Very good. So what